Be with you, and thanks for your testimony. I wanted to get right to the heart of the matter that we're exploring today, among other issues, and that's the question of price. But I wanted to start with, by way of a predicate, that we're certainly grateful for the work of Moderna and the other companies working in concert with the federal government, both federal appropriations as well as agencies like NIH and others, to develop these vaccines in short order and to be able to provide the benefit, as you outlined in your testimony, to save millions of lives. And we're grateful for that. We're also grateful for the ongoing work that is done every day to save lives. I wanted to explore, though, this question of this partnership between not only Moderna but other entities and the federal government. You might call it a public-private partnership. I would argue that that partnership, which yielded such great benefits for our country and the world, should not be extinguished because the pandemic is over. I would argue there are ongoing obligations, and I think even practical reasons, to continue that kind of partnership, maybe in a different form, maybe with different outcomes and different dynamics, as you've outlined on page 9 of your testimony, when you go from the earlier version of a partnership to commercial application of the vaccine. But I'd ask you this, and I noted in your testimony on page 1, you said in the second paragraph about the Jesuit teachings. I went to a Jesuit high school and college, so I'm somewhat familiar with these teachings. You said, quote, Jesuit values the continuous pursuit of excellence, service of the greater good, number 2, and third, social responsibility, you say, have informed my life and leadership of Moderna, unquote. So I want to juxtapose those values, which I think are commendable, and I think we hope they're American values as well, next to this, what I would argue is an ongoing obligation to have this partnership. Shouldn't there be an ongoing obligation with regard to a product that was developed in partnership with the federal government to ensure that it remains both inexpensive and accessible? Don't you believe that that is your obligation and Moderna's obligation?
Thank you, Senator, and good morning. So first, thank you for the kind words that you shared about our teams and all the other companies and the government personnel who has helped fight this pandemic. So first on access, as I shared in my testimony and in a written one, we care deeply about access, and we're working hard with our team, and I'm happy to spend more time on that topic. I know it's important for the chairman as well, to make sure that people that are uninsured or underinsured have access to a vaccine. We want to make sure that cost and out-of-pocket cash is not a barrier to access to vaccine. Then on the topic of price, it's important as we move into the endemic market that we price to value of a vaccine. What value does it bring in terms of healthcare dollars? As you know, vaccines are one of the best investments we can make with healthcare dollars in terms of a return. This has been documented for many, many years, because it's better to prevent disease than to have to pay the cost of somebody being hospitalized, and that's very expensive cost, without even adding the economic burden, obviously. So that's really important. If you look at the interesting comparator is flu. The CVS price of a high-dose flu vaccine used for the elderly is around $95 in this country. If you look at COVID, there are 2 to 3 times more hospitalization right now of COVID. So when you look at the price in that range, seems to make sense versus the value that have been assigned already to flu over the years. And you can look at other vaccine like pneumonia. The CVS price of pneumonia vaccine is around $250.
Well, I'd ask you this, just by way of follow-up, and I realize that you're making that comparison with flu vaccine, but for a lot of my constituents, most of my constituents, no matter what their insurance status is, the cost of prescription drugs is like a bag of rocks on their shoulder every single day. Mm-hmm. And what may not seem like a lot of money to you or a lot of other people, $130, $150, or whatever the number ends up, is a lot of money. And I'd ask you, and I'll ask you for the record in writing, to ensure that anyone can get a vaccine. They won't have to apply through some tedious process and then wait for approval. And or apply for some kind of reimbursement or have to drive a long distance. That, I believe, is your obligation as a company. And I know I'm out of time, but we'll ask that in writing. Thank you.
Now, you can answer that, Mr. Bancel, if you'd like.
Yes, and I'm happy to spend time later on the topic. On the access program, we want to make sure we have a simple program that is in multi-language. We're also trying to learn from what is not working from current programs done by larger companies. So, for example, we want to make sure we can partner with rural community hospital, potentially homeless shelters, to make it much easier. So I'm happy to spend more time on that topic. It's
Thank
very
you.
important.
Senator Cassidy.
Yes, I will allow Senator Romney to go next.
Thank you, Senator Cassidy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am one of those Americans who's concerned about the fact that Americans